They dragged me to the execution platform in silver chains, and when the warden asked for my final wish, I said 5 words that made the entire council chamber erupt in laughter. I want my pet wolf. The guards were still mocking me when the doors burst open and 300 pounds of midnight black wolf stalked inside, eyes burning gold. Then he shifted into a man, the Alpha I'd saved 3 months ago, and the way every council member went pale told me they knew exactly who he was and what kind of hell they'd just unleashed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind to when they clamped the silver restraints around my wrists. Hey, welcome to Imagine BL Story. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really encourages my work and helps me bring you more stories. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. Silver burns Omega skin differently than it burns Alpha's, slower, deeper, like frostbite working into your bones. I didn't cry out. I'd learned long ago that showing pain only made them enjoy it more. I stood at the center of the execution chamber at Silvercrest Correctional. In front of me, plastic seats lined against the back wall for witnesses, because apparently, watching someone die needed an audience. 47 people filled those seats. 47 who'd come to watch an Omega doctor take his last breath. I recognized some of them. Dr. Hendricks in the front row, arms crossed, wearing that same smug look from when he'd thrown me under the bus. 3 hospital board members. A handful of council officials in press suits. The rest were strangers, vultures, all of them. The warden, a graying Alpha with cold eyes, yanked me forward. My knees nearly buckled, but I forced myself to stand straight. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Reece Perkins, the warden announced, convicted of negligent homicide in the death of Councilman Richard Thorne, sentenced to execution by lethal injection. He paused, checking his tablet. The condemned is permitted one final request within reason. Within reason. What a joke. I could ask for a last meal, but my stomach had been in knots for days. I could ask to see my mother, but she'd disowned me the moment the arrest made the news. An Omega son was bad enough. A murderer was unforgivable. I could ask for Maya, but I'd already said goodbye yesterday. She'd cried so hard she made herself sick. No, I had one card left. One desperate, probably insane gamble. I lifted my chin. I want to see my pet wolf. Silence. Then, laughter. Loud, cruel laughter that bounced around the chamber. Dr. Hendricks slapped his knee. One council member wiped tears from his eyes. His pet? Someone wheezed. The Omega wants his puppy. Another voice cackled. The warden's lips twitched. You want us to bring an animal into an execution chamber? That's my request, I said evenly, though my heart hammered. You said within reason. My wolf is well behaved. He won't cause trouble. More laughter. Councilman Ashford, silver-haired and smug, leaned forward. Oh, let him have his comfort animal. What harm could it do? He waved dismissively. Let him die with his delusions. The warden shrugged. Fine. Someone fetch the creature. 2 guards left through the side door. I could hear their muffled jokes as they disappeared. The wait felt like hours. Time moved strangely when you were counting down your final minutes. I stood there, silver burning my wrists, surrounded by people who wanted me dead for a crime I didn't commit. Please, I thought desperately, please let this work. Because 3 months ago, a dying Alpha made me a promise. Code word. A lifeline. If you're ever in real trouble, say this word. I'll come, no matter where I am. I'd whispered that word last night, pressing my face against the cold cell bars, sending it out like a prayer. I had no phone, no way to contact him. No idea if the bond he'd hinted at actually existed. But I had nothing else. The laughter had died to scattered chuckles when the side doors banged open. The guards weren't laughing anymore. They stumbled backward, faces pale, as something massive pushed past them. The wolf that entered wasn't a pet. It wasn't even normal. It was enormous, easily 300 pounds of muscle and midnight black fur. Its shoulders reached the guards' chests. Paws the size of dinner plates clicked against the tile. But it was the eyes that made the room go silent. Golden, burning. The wolf's gaze swept the chamber. The witnesses, the warden, the restraints on my wrists. Then those molten gold eyes locked onto mine, and I felt it. That same electric pull from 3 months ago when he'd first woken in that hospital bed. The crowd's amusement evaporated. People shifted uncomfortably. Someone muttered, "That's not a pet. That's a—" The wolf stalked toward me, ignoring everyone else. Each movement was fluid and predatory guards pressed themselves against walls. Even the warden stepped back. When the wolf reached me, it stopped, lowered its massive head. My hands trembled as I leaned forward, chains clinking. I pressed my lips close to one triangular ear, feeling the heat from its fur, and whispered the word that would either save my life or condemn us both. Nightshade. The wolf went utterly still. Then its body convulsed. Bones cracked like breaking branches. Fur rippled and receded. Muscles reformed. The transformation was brutal, violent, beautiful, and in less than 10 seconds the wolf was gone. In its place stood a man. Naked, powerful, terrifying. Brandon Farrell rose to his full height, 6'4", of carved muscle and barely restrained fury. His black hair was wild, his jaw sharp as glass, and those golden eyes burned even brighter in human form. Scars crisscrossed his chest and arms, each one a testament to battles survived. He didn't look at the crowd, didn't acknowledge the gasps, the strangled sounds, the chairs scraping as people tried to back away. He looked at me, at the silver chains, at the execution chair behind me. When he spoke, his voice was a low, deadly rumble that vibrated through the floor. "Who dared touch what's mine?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. And judging by the way Councilman Ashford had gone sheet white, he knew exactly what kind of hell was about to rain down. 3 months before I found myself staring at a naked alpha in an execution chamber, I was just trying to survive another night shift at St. Silvercrest Hospital. Perkins. Coffee. Now. I didn't look up from the patient chart I was updating. "I'm not your assistant, Dr. Hendricks. I'm a doctor." "You're an Omega," he corrected, dripping with condescension. "And last I checked, Omega doctors fetch coffee for real physicians." My jaw clenched, but I kept my eyes on the screen. Fighting back never helped. It only made things worse. Dr. Hendricks, head of the ER and grade A bastard, leaned against the nurse's station, making sure his voice carried to the 3 alpha doctors nearby. "Besides, it's not like you're doing anything important. What is that, a splinter removal? Groundbreaking work, Perkins. Truly." Laughter rippled through the group. Heat crept up my neck, but I forced myself to stay calm, to stay invisible. That was the trick to surviving St. Silvercrest. Don't make waves, don't talk back, don't give them reasons to notice you. Just do your job and go home. I'd been doing it for 3 years. "Leave him alone, Hendricks." Maya appeared beside me, arms crossed, dark eyes flashing. She was the only other Omega on staff, a nurse with more fire than sense. We'd been friends since orientation, bonded by shared frustration and late-night venting sessions. Hendricks smirked. "Ah, the Omega Brigade. How cute." He pushed off the counter. "Get back to work, both of you. And Perkins? Next time I ask for coffee, you bring it. Understood." He walked away before I could respond. Not that I would have. What was the point? "I hate him," Maya muttered, sliding into the chair next to mine. "I hate all of them." "I know. You should report him. That's harassment." "To who?" "His alpha buddies on the hospital board." I shook my head. "It won't change anything, Maya. It'll just make my life harder." She sighed, deflating. "You're too good for this place, Reece. You're twice the Dr. Hendricks will ever be." I appreciated the sentiment, but we both knew it didn't matter. Skill meant nothing when you were an Omega in an Alpha's world. I could be the best surgeon in the country, and I'd still be fetching coffee. "Anyway," Maya said, brightening slightly, "you coming to trivia night Thursday? Marcus is bringing his new boyfriend, and I need backup in case they start being gross." "Maybe. If I'm not." The ER doors exploded open. Critical incoming. Half-shifted alpha. Massive trauma. Unresponsive. The entire staff froze. Then chaos erupted. Paramedics burst through, wheeling a gurney that looked ready to collapse under its passenger's weight. I caught a glimpse, blood, so much blood, and fur mixed with human skin in a way that turned my stomach. Half-shifted wolves were dangerous on a good day. A wounded, feral one was a death sentence. "Someone sedate him," one paramedic shouted. "We tried. It's not working." Dr. Hendricks took one look and stepped back. "Room 4. Restrain him first." But when they tried moving the patient into the trauma bay, the creature, wolf, snarled. The sound rattled my bones. His hand, more claw than hand, lashed out, nearly catching a nurse across the face. Everyone scattered. "We need a doctor," the paramedic yelled. "He's crashing." The Alpha doctors exchanged glances. No one moved forward. "Too dangerous," one muttered. "Let him stabilize first." "He won't make it to stabilized." Dr. Hendricks's eyes swept the room and landed on me. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face. "Perkins, you're up." My blood went cold. "What?" "You heard me. Get in there and treat him." He jerked his chin toward room 4, where the patient's vitals were screaming on the monitors. "Consider it your chance to prove Omega doctors are worth something." Maya grabbed my arm. "Reece, no. That's insane. He'll kill you. He'll die if someone doesn't help him," I said quietly, staring at the blood pooling beneath the gurney. Hendricks shrugged. "Not my problem if you get mauled. Should have brought me that coffee." I looked at the patient, at the dying Alpha no one else would touch, and made a decision. I walked toward room 4. Behind me, I heard Maya whisper, "Please be careful." I stepped through the door. The wolfman's eyes snapped open. Gold, burning, feral, and fixed directly on me. The patient was massive, even half-collapsed on the gurney. 7 feet of muscle and barely contained violence. His body caught between forms. Black fur sprouted along his arms and chest. His face was half-human, half-wolf, jaw elongated with fangs that could tear through bone. Blood soaked the sheets beneath him. He was dying, and he was staring right at me. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice steady as I approached. "I'm Dr. Perkins. I'm going to help you, but you need to stay still." A low growl rumbled from his chest. His clawed hand twitched toward me. I didn't flinch. "Behave or I'll let you bleed out." The growling stopped. His golden eyes widened slightly, surprise, maybe. Hard to tell with the whole feral wolf situation. I moved to his side, assessing the damage. Deep lacerations across his torso. Possible internal bleeding. His left shoulder looked dislocated. Whatever attacked him had done serious damage. "This is going to hurt," I warned, reaching for the largest wound. His hand shot out, wrapping around my wrist. The grip was iron-strong, claws pricking my skin. For a second, I thought he might actually kill me. Then his eyes focused, really focused, on my face. "What's your name?" The voice was rough, barely human, but understandable. "Little Omega." "Reece," I said, not trying to pull away. "And you need to let go so I can save your life." He stared at me for another long moment. Then, slowly, his grip loosened. I got to work. By the time I'd stitched the worst wounds and pumped him full of antibiotics, the Alpha had shifted back to fully human. Which meant I was now treating a very naked, very attractive man who wouldn't stop staring at me. "You're fearless," he said, watching me wrap his shoulder. "Stupid, but fearless. I'm a doctor. It's literally my job." The others ran. "The others are idiots." I tied off the bandage, maybe tighter than necessary. "There. You'll live. Probably." His lips quirked. "Probably. You lost a lot of blood. You'll need to stay for observation. At least 3 days." I made notes on his chart. "What's your name?" "For the paperwork." "Brandon. Last name?" "Farrell." I wrote it down. "What happened to you, Mr. Farrell?" "Territory dispute." He said it casually, like discussing the weather. "Someone thought they could take what was mine. They were wrong. Clearly not that wrong. You almost died. But I didn't." His golden eyes tracked my every movement. "Because you saved me." Something in his tone made my skin prickle. Not fear, something else. Something I couldn't name. Just doing my job, I repeated, heading for the door. Reece. I stopped, hand on the doorframe. Come back tomorrow, Brandon said. It wasn't a question. That's not a request. I should have said no. Should have assigned him to another doctor. Should have recognized the danger in those golden eyes. Instead, I found myself nodding. Fine, but only to check your stitches. His smile was all teeth. Whatever you say, doctor. I came back the next day, and the day after that. Brandon was a terrible patient. Demanding, stubborn, refusing to rest. But he was also charming in a rough, dangerous way that made my pulse quicken every time I entered his room. Tell me about yourself, he said on day 2, watching me check his vitals. There's nothing to tell. Liar. Everyone has a story. I sighed. I'm an Omega doctor in an Alpha hospital. That's the whole story. They don't respect you. It wasn't a question. I didn't bother denying it. No, they don't. Their loss. Brandon's voice was firm, certain. You're brilliant. I can tell. My hands stilled on the blood pressure cuff. No one had ever called me brilliant. Competent, maybe. Adequate. Never brilliant. You don't know me, I said quietly. I know you walked into a room with a feral alpha when everyone else ran. I know you've got steady hands and a sharp mind. I know. His hand caught mine, thumb brushing across my knuckles. I know you're extraordinary, even if no one else sees it. Heat flooded my face. I pulled my hand away, flustered. Your blood pressure is elevated. You need to rest. Hard to rest when you're in the room. Brandon, go out with me. When I'm discharged. That's against hospital policy. I don't care about policy. He leaned forward, intense. Say yes, Reece. I should have said no. But God help me, I wanted to say yes. Wanted someone to see me the way he seemed to. Wanted to feel like I mattered. Maybe, I whispered. His smile was devastating. I'll take it. Day 3. Brandon was sitting up in bed looking entirely too healthy for someone who'd been half dead 72 hours ago. Alpha healing was ridiculous. You're staring, he said without opening his eyes. I'm observing. Medically. Aha. One golden eye cracked open. See anything you like, doctor? I see a patient who should still be resting. I pulled up his chart on the tablet. Your wounds are healing faster than expected. Good genetics. He stretched, and I absolutely did not watch the way his muscles moved. When do I get out of here? Tomorrow, if your blood work comes back clean. His expression shifted, something almost sad crossing his features. Tomorrow. That soon. You complained about being here yesterday. That was before I realized leaving means not seeing you every day. My throat tightened. Brandon, have dinner with me. Tonight. He sat forward. They're bringing me real food instead of that hospital garbage. Share it with me. I'm on shift. Your shift ends at 8. I checked. His smile was pure mischief. Come on, Reece. One dinner. What's the harm? The harm was that I was already half gone on this man. The harm was that he made me feel things I'd convinced myself I didn't deserve. The harm was that tomorrow he'd leave, and I'd go back to being invisible. Okay. I heard myself say. One dinner. We talked for hours that night. Brandon told me about growing up wild, about living on the road, fighting and surviving and never staying in one place long. He didn't mention family or where he came from, and I didn't push. I told him about medical school, about being the only Omega in my class, about proving myself over and over and still never being enough. You're enough, Brandon said fiercely. More than enough. They're just too blind to see it. You barely know me. I know enough. His hand found mine across the dinner tray. I know you're the bravest person I've ever met. I know you saved my life. I know. He paused, something raw flickering in his eyes. I know I don't want to leave tomorrow. You have to. You're healed. Come with me. I laughed, but it came out shaky. Where? You won't even tell me where you're going. North. Far north. His thumb traced circles on my palm. I have business to handle. But after. Brandon, we just met. You can't seriously be asking me to run away with you. Why not? Because that's insane. Because I have a job. Because people like you don't actually want people like me. Because this isn't real. His grip tightened. It feels pretty real to me. The air between us charged with something electric. Dangerous. Brandon's eyes had gone molten gold, his alpha pheromones making my head spin. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb brushing my lower lip. Stop holding back and let yourself feel what's real. Then he kissed me. I gasped, and he swallowed the sound, pulling me against him. Heat burned through my scrubs. His hand slid into my hair, tilting my head back, deepening the kiss until I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel. When we broke apart, both panting, I stumbled to the door and locked it. My hands shook. This was insane. I didn't do this. Didn't give in to strangers, especially not dangerous alphas who'd nearly died on my table 3 days ago. But when I turned back and saw the hunger in Brandon's golden eyes, every rational thought evaporated. His hands were on me before I reached the bed, sliding under my scrub top, mapping my skin like he was memorizing every inch. Each touch sparked electricity through my nerves. He buried his face against my throat, inhaling deeply, that wolf instinct scenting me. A low growl rumbled from his chest. Mine. The possessiveness should have scared me. Instead, it ignited something primal deep in my Omega nature that I'd spent years suppressing. Brandon's touch was reverent, worshipping, like I was something precious he'd been searching for. Every kiss, every caress felt deliberate, not just taking, but giving, making me feel seen in ways I'd never experienced. The narrow hospital bed became our entire world. Time blurred. Reality narrowed to just us. His strength surrounding me, his warmth seeping into my bones, his voice murmuring promises against my skin. When pleasure finally crested and broke over me like a wave, Brandon held me through it, anchoring me, keeping me safe even as I came completely undone. Afterward, tangled together, his fingers traced lazy patterns on my back. I felt boneless, satisfied in ways I hadn't known were possible. I started. Incredible. His arms tightened. You're incredible. My body was too relaxed to argue, my mind too hazy. For once, I let myself believe it. Tomorrow I'd go back to being invisible. Back to the hospital where no one saw me. But tonight I'd let myself have this. Have him. Brandon's discharge was scheduled for noon. I arrived at 10 with his paperwork and found him already dressed, pacing like a caged animal. You're early, he said. I wanted to. I stopped. What did I want? To say goodbye? To ask him to stay? To pretend last night had changed nothing? In 2 strides, Brandon crossed the room and cupped my face. I have to go. But this isn't over. Brandon, listen. His intensity was almost frightening. Where I'm going is dangerous. I can't take you with me right now. But I'm coming back for you. I swear it. You don't have to say that. I'm not just saying it. He pulled something from his pocket, a small silver pendant on a leather cord. This is for you. And this. He leaned close, his lips brushing my ear. Nightshade. That's the word. If you're ever in real trouble, say it out loud. Doesn't matter where. I'll hear it. I'll come. That's not possible. It is. His smile was mysterious. Trust me. He pressed the pendant into my palm and kissed me one last time. Deep, desperate, full of promises I wanted to believe. Wait for me, Reece. I'll come back. Then he was gone. I stood alone in the hospital room, holding a silver pendant and a code word I didn't understand, unsure if I'd imagined the entire thing. Maya found me 20 minutes later, still frozen in place. You okay? She asked gently. I closed my fist around the pendant. Yeah, I'm fine. But walking back to the nurse's station, I couldn't shake the feeling that nothing would ever be fine again. That night in my apartment, I whispered the word just to test it. Nightshade. Nothing. Silence. Of course nothing. Just a word. Just a beautiful lie from a man I'd never see again. I tucked the pendant away and tried to forget. Wow, you've made it this far. If you're enjoying the story and still haven't subscribed, please take a second to do so. It means a lot. Also, drop a comment and let us know where you're listening from. Alright, let's get back to the story. 3 months passed. Brandon didn't come back. I threw myself into work. Extra shifts, late nights, anything to keep my mind occupied. The pendant stayed buried. I didn't say the code word again. Life returned to normal. Invisible. Overlooked. Exhausting. Until Councilman Richard Thorne died in my care. It started like any other shift. The councilman came in for routine tests, nothing major. I was assigned post-procedure monitoring because important patients needed Omega doctors for the tedious work. Keep him comfortable, Dr. Hendricks said. Don't screw it up. I checked on Thorne every 30 minutes. Stable vitals. No complications. Everything textbook. At 2:47 a.m., his monitor flatlined. I ran in. Started CPR. Called the crash cart. Did everything right. He was already gone. The autopsy revealed an adverse medication reaction. Medication I hadn't administered. That wasn't in my notes. None of it mattered. They arrested me in the hallway, right there in front of everyone. Reece Perkins, you're under arrest for negligent homicide. That's impossible. I didn't. But the evidence told a different story. My name on medication logs. My signature on forms I'd never seen. Security footage conveniently corrupted during the critical window. Someone had set me up. Expertly. The trial was predetermined. My public defender was overworked. The prosecution had unlimited resources and a dead councilman to avenge. The jury was all alphas. The evidence is clear, the prosecutor stated. Dr. Perkins administered the wrong medication, resulting in Councilman Thorne's death. A man is dead. I didn't give him anything, I kept repeating. Check the real logs. Check. We have, the judge said coldly. The evidence speaks for itself. Maya testified for me, swearing I'd never make such a mistake. They dismissed her as biased. Dr. Hendricks testified against me, describing me as careless and resentful. Every word believed. 3 weeks after arrest, guilty. 1 week later, execution. I sat in my cell that night, staring at concrete walls, and faced the truth. No one was saving me. No one cared enough to try. I'd die for a crime I didn't commit. The real killer would walk free. That's when I remembered the pendant. The code word. Maya had brought my belongings, a few personal items allowed in holding. The silver pendant was among them. I held it in my palm, feeling its weight. If you're ever in real trouble, say that word. This was real trouble. But Brandon was long gone. Probably forgotten me by now. Why would he return for an Omega he'd spent 3 days with? Still, what did I have to lose? I pressed the pendant to my lips and whispered into the darkness. Nightshade. Nothing happened. I waited, listened, hoped. Just silence. A beautiful fantasy. A lie. I was alone. I'd always been alone. In 3 days I'd be dead. Now, standing in the execution chamber with silver chains burning my wrists, Brandon's voice roared through the room. A deadly rumble that shook the walls. Who dared touch what's mine? As chaos erupted around us, I realized the truth. Maybe I'd never been alone at all. Councilman Ashford shot to his feet, face purple with rage. What is the meaning of this? Guard. Remove this. Brandon's head turned slowly toward him. Just that look, those burning gold eyes, made Ashford's words die in his throat. You will sit down, Brandon said quietly, and you will shut your mouth. Ashford sat. The warden stepped forward, hand on his weapon. Sir, you need to. I need to do nothing. Brandon's voice carried absolute authority. But you need to remove those chains from my mate. Now. Your mate. Dr. Hendricks laughed nervously. Who the hell do you think you are? Brandon smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I am Brandon Farrell, Alpha Supreme of the Northern Territories, sovereign leader of the Nightshade Pack. And you? His gaze swept across every face in the room. Just sentenced my bonded mate to death. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. That's impossible, someone whispered. The Alpha Supreme is a myth. Do I look like a myth? Brandon took a step forward. Several people scrambled backward. I'll ask one more time. Who touched what's mine? The warden's hand trembled on his weapon. Sir, this man was convicted of murder. He's innocent. Brandon's certainty was absolute. And you have exactly 1 hour to bring me every piece of evidence used against him. Every document. Every witness statement. Every security recording. His smile turned predatory. And someone better start explaining why my mate was on death row. You can't just waltz in here and make demands. Ashford blustered, though his voice shook. This is Silvercrest territory, not yours. My authority supersedes yours, councilman. Check your territorial laws if you don't believe me. Brandon's eyes glowed brighter. An Alpha Supreme's mate is protected under continental law. Harming one is an act of war. He paused. Would you like to go to war with the Northern Territories? Silence. I thought not. Brandon turned to the warden. The chains. Now. The warden looked at Ashford. Ashford looked at the other council members. No one seemed willing to challenge the massive, furious Alpha radiating lethal power. Finally, the warden nodded. A guard approached with trembling hands and unlocked my restraints. The silver fell away. My wrists were raw and bleeding, but I barely felt it. Brandon was there in an instant, catching me as my knees buckled. His arms wrapped around me, warm, solid, real. I've got you, he murmured against my hair. I'm here. I'm so sorry I'm late. You came? I whispered, still not quite believing it. You actually came. I swore I would. His grip tightened. Then he turned to address the room, his voice carrying absolute authority. Clear this chamber now and someone get me clothes, Brandon added, still unbothered by his nakedness. My pack is already here. Try not to panic when you see them. As if on cue, the chamber doors exploded open. 6 massive wolves prowled in, clearly Brandon's people. They moved with military precision, spreading out to guard every exit. The witnesses who hadn't already fled now scrambled for the doors. Councilman Ashford's face had gone gray. Dr. Hendricks looked like he might be sick. Good. Brandon scooped me up before I could protest. One arm under my knees, the other supporting my back, and carried me out of that death chamber like I weighed nothing. I barely registered the journey. Too focused on the fact that Brandon was real, here, holding me, my legs felt like water. My mind couldn't catch up to what had just happened. The conference room had been transformed in minutes. Tactical equipment covered the tables, laptops, tablets, communication devices. Maps of the hospital and city spread across one wall. Brandon's pack moved with efficient purpose, setting up what looked like a mobile command center. A tall woman with silver-streaked hair approached, holding clothes. Sir. Thank you, Kira. Brandon set me carefully in a chair and dressed quickly. Black tactical pants and a fitted shirt, never taking his eyes off me for long. I watched him transform from feral alpha to someone who commanded armies. Someone powerful. Someone who'd just halted my execution with a word. Reece. Brandon crouched in front of me, now fully dressed. His hands found mine, carefully avoiding my raw wrists. Look at me. I met his golden eyes. Breathe, he said gently. You're safe now. I promise. I don't understand. How did you know? How did you get here so fast? His thumbs traced circles on my palms. When you said the word, I felt it, your terror, your desperation. I was already on my way. I'd felt something was wrong for weeks, but couldn't pinpoint it. The moment you called, I knew exactly where you were. His jaw clenched. I flew here, called in every favor to access this facility. You're really the Alpha Supreme. I am. He smiled slightly. Surprise. That's one word for it. A younger man approached with a tablet. Sir, the administrators are gathering files. The council is trying to flee. Let them try. Brandon's smile turned cold. Kira, make sure no one leaves. Anyone who tries is automatically guilty. On it. She disappeared. Brandon turned back to me. I need to handle this. But I'm not leaving you alone. Understood. I nodded. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, tender despite everything, then stood. The gentle mate vanished. The Alpha Supreme took his place. Bring them all back to the execution chamber, he ordered. Every council member, every administrator, every guard who touched him. His voice dropped to something lethal. It's time for them to answer for what they've done. 30 minutes later, I sat in a witness chair, no longer condemned, but victim. Brandon stood at the front, arms crossed, radiating cold fury. His pack guarded every door, armed and alert. The council members were herded in like cattle. Ashford's smugness had evaporated. Hendricks looked ready to bolt. Administrators clutched trembling files. Everyone sit, Brandon commanded. They sat. He looked at me, his expression softening just slightly. You okay? I nodded, unsure if it was true. Brandon's gaze swept the room. Judges, executioners, conspirators. Let's begin. The next hour was brutal. His enforcers laid out everything, real medication logs showing I'd never touched Thorne's case. Uncorrupted security footage, witness statements from nurses who'd seen Hendricks in the medication room. The truth emerged like poison draining from a wound. Councilman Thorne had been killed by Ashford over a territory dispute. The hospital had covered it up. Hendricks had volunteered me as the scapegoat, seeing an opportunity to rid himself of an Omega who'd embarrassed him by being competent. They'd fabricated everything, all of it designed to murder me legally. Arrest them, Brandon ordered. All of them. Guards moved forward, different ones, answering to territorial authority rather than local corruption. Ashford tried to run. Hendricks tried to negotiate. Neither got far. As they were dragged away, Hendricks locked eyes with me one last time. Pure hatred. You should have stayed invisible, he spat. Brandon moved between us, his entire body going rigid. When he spoke, his voice was a lethal whisper that made the air feel dangerous. He was never invisible. And you? He stepped toward Hendricks, eyes glowing gold. You just made the mistake of your lifetime. I will remember your face. I will remember your name. If I ever see you outside a prison cell, I will remind you exactly why you should fear the dark. He paused, letting the promise hang. Guard him closely. Anyone who lets him escape answers to me. When the chamber emptied, it was just Brandon and me and his pack at the doors. We need to talk, Brandon said quietly. My laugh came out shaky. That's an understatement. He cupped my face, thumbs brushing my cheekbones. I should have claimed you that first night. Should have told you what you were to me. Should have never left you unprotected. What am I to you? I whispered. My mate, my everything. His voice cracked. I knew the moment I woke up in that hospital and saw you. The bond snapped into place. But a lot was going on back home, threats to handle, territory to secure. I was going to come back for you properly. His eyes squeezed shut. Then I felt your fear through the bond. Felt you calling. And I realized I was too late. You weren't too late. I almost was. He pressed his forehead to mine. I've never been so terrified. We stood there, breathing each other in, alive when I should have been dead. Come north with me, Brandon said. Be my mate. Let me protect you the way I should have from the start. 3 months ago I would have called it crazy. Now I knew better. Yes, I whispered. Yes. What happened next feels like a dream I'm still half afraid to wake from. Brandon carried me to the temporary housing his pack had secured, a penthouse high above the city. The moment the door closed, the Alpha Supreme dropped away, and it was just Brandon. Just him and me and the bone-deep need to be close. We barely left the suite for 2 days. He traced every scar on my wrists where the silver chains had burned me, pressing kisses to the raw skin like he could heal them with touch alone. I mapped the hard lines of his body, still amazed that this powerful, lethal man chose to be gentle with me. We talked, laughed, made love with the kind of desperation that came from almost losing everything. On the 3rd day, the tribunal was called. The council chamber was packed, but this time for justice instead of execution. Brandon sat beside me, his presence a wall of protection. Across the room, Hendricks and Ashford sat in silver chains, the same restraints that had burned my wrists. The judge was an older alpha woman with steel-gray eyes that missed nothing. The evidence was presented systematically. Hendricks had accessed Thorne's room at 2:35 a.m. and injected a lethal drug cocktail into his four. The conspiracy unraveled quickly. Ashford's construction deal, Thorne's threat to expose the corruption, the decision to frame me because I was expendable. He was just an Omega, Hendricks said bitterly when confronted. He didn't matter. The chamber went silent. Brandon jerked in his seat, controlled fury vibrating through him. He matters to me. He is my mate, my equal. He invoked Alpha's justice, and the judge sentenced them both to life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. All assets seized. All restitution granted. The hospital's entire board was fired within a week. Decades of discrimination and corruption came to light. Other Omega doctors and nurses started coming forward with their own stories of being invisible, undervalued, expendable. Maya cried happy tears when she called. The system was actually changing, but I wasn't staying to see it. Brandon found me on the penthouse balcony at sunset, the city sprawling below us in golds and crimsons. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, and I leaned into him like I could stay there forever. "Tell me about the North," I said. His eyes lit up as he described his empire, which already sounded overwhelming and like something out of a fantasy world. I knew the North is bigger and more powerful than any other region in the country, but haven't actually been there. He passionately described it as a place where I could be a healer, where my skills would actually matter, where I wouldn't be invisible. "They're going to love you," he said simply. "Because I love you, and because you're exactly who we need." I turned in his arms, looking up at him. "I want it. All of it." He kissed me then, deep and full of everything we'd both been too afraid to hope for. "We leave tomorrow," he said. "Ready?" I thought about the hospital that had used me, the city that had tried to execute me, the life where I'd been nothing. Then I thought about what waited ahead. Pack, purpose, a mate who truly saw me. I'm ready. 6 months later, the Northern Territories turns out to be far more bigger than I expected. Brandon hadn't brought me to some hidden forest. He'd brought me to the heart of everything. A place where cutting-edge power met raw wild strength. And he'd made me head healer. The medical center was massive, advanced, full of technology I'd only dreamed about. And more than that, it had a staff of 200 who actually listened when I spoke. I stood in my office on the 15th floor of Nightshade Medical Center, watching the sun set over glass towers and distant mountains. Dr. Perkins, my assistant, a bright young beta named Chris, poked his head in. "The council meeting is in 10 minutes. Should I prepare the presentation?" "Already done. Thank you, Chris." He grinned. "You know, half the staff is still intimidated by you." "Me? Why?" "Because you're mated to the Alpha Supreme. Because you revolutionized our emergency protocols in 3 months. Because you're kind of a legend." He shrugged. "Take your pick." I laughed, shaking my head. "Tell them I'm just a doctor. A doctor who saved the Alpha Supreme's life and became his mate. That's literally a fairy tale." Chris ducked out before I could throw something at him. The council meeting was in the Apex Tower, Brandon's headquarters, a 90-story monument to Northern power. I took the private elevator to the penthouse level, nodding to guards who bowed as I passed. Bowed. To me, I still wasn't used to it. Brandon was in the conference room with his inner circle, territorial leaders, military commanders, economic advisors. They all stood when I entered. "Head Healer Perkins," the defense commander said respectfully. "Your report on Omega military health protocols was excellent." "Thank you, Commander Reeves." Brandon's eyes tracked me as I took my seat beside him. The head seat, equal to his. "You look particularly stunning today, my love," Brandon murmured, loud enough for everyone to hear. His hand found my thigh under the table. "That color suits you." Heat flooded my face. I swatted his arm lightly. "Behave. We're in a meeting." The entire council went silent, eyes wide. No one spoke to the Alpha Supreme like that. No one touched him casually during official business. Brandon just rolled his eyes, a small smirk playing at his lips, but he squeezed my hand and withdrew his. Commander Reeves cleared his throat awkwardly. Shall we proceed with the agenda? The meeting covered territory expansion and medical logistics for new settlements. My suggestions were implemented without question. This was my life now, not invisible, powerful. That evening, Brandon found me by the window of our penthouse, still in my formal clothes. The city glittered below us. You were incredible today, he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Reeves hasn't stopped talking about your protocol redesign. It needed updating. You're deflecting. His lips found my neck, trailing heat across my skin. You changed everything in 6 months. This territory runs better because of you. I turned to face him. He was still in his formal suit, looking like exactly what he was, the most powerful man on the continent. And he looked at me like I was his entire world. I love you, I breathed. Then show me just how much. I pulled him down, kissing him hard. His response was immediate. Hands gripping my waist, lifting me effortlessly. My legs wrapped around him as he carried me toward the bedroom, never breaking the kiss. Brandon's hands were everywhere. Unbuttoning my shirt, sliding off my jacket, mapping every inch of skin like he was memorizing scripture. Mine, he growled against my throat. My mate, my everything. I arched into him, fingers tangling in his hair. Yours, always yours. The mating bond blazed between us, electric, overwhelming, perfect. I could feel his desire, his love, his absolute devotion mixing with my own until I couldn't tell where I ended and he began. When we finally came together, it was intense and desperate and exactly right. We lay tangled together, sweaty and satisfied, watching the northern lights shimmer outside our window. Happy? He murmured, fingers tracing patterns on my skin. I looked at the city below, at the life we'd built. 6 months ago, I'd been on an execution platform. Now I was here. Yes, I whispered. I'm happy. 1 year later, I stood before 5,000 people at the Continental Medical Conference. The invisible Omega from Silvercrest. Now keynote speaker. Healthcare shouldn't depend on your designation, I said, my voice carrying through the auditorium. We all deserve to be seen. The applause was deafening. Brandon watched from the front row, pride radiating through our bond. Beside him, Maya cried happy tears. After, reporters swarmed with cameras and questions. Everyone wanted to talk to the head healer, the Alpha Supreme's mate, the Omega who'd changed everything. I answered with grace, but kept it brief, because Brandon was waiting. We left in his private transport. His hand never left mine during the flight home. Proud of you, he said simply. Thank you for seeing me, I replied. He smiled. You were never invisible. You just needed someone worthy of your light. I leaned against him, watching the Northern Territory skyline appear on the horizon. Our home, our future, everything I'd ever needed was right here. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, tell us your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, keep daydreaming in BL.